Hey everybody, so we are here at the Chestnut Street Log House. This is emblematic of what the entire town here would have all been, these type of log houses. These are German. You can tell that by the fireplace is always in the center of a German log house, whereas an English log house would have them on the ends. This is how they heated their homes, that type of thing. George Stites was the founder of Lebanon. At that time, it would have been called Stites. You also had, we visited Light's Fort. That is on the northern part of Lebanon. The Light family, or the Light, the Leicht, they built that, and they sort of were in the northern part of Lebanon. They were both at like different areas of these creeks, because that's how towns usually got formed. But George Stites would have bought a whole slew of land from like the Penn brothers, and then he would have laid it out, and this is where the town would have started to be laid out. Stites, as it was known then, and then you had Hebron, which we visited, the Hebron Moravian cemetery. They were sort of competing for which town would wind out being the big town, and ultimately Lebanon or Stites won out. But this is what you would have seen throughout this entire street, all throughout this town, is a lot of the people, there were stone houses. If you were like a merchant or somebody of wealth, you would have that, or for the common people, you would have had the stone foundation and then the log house, because that was what was readily available. And this would have been from mid-1700s, 1780s, so French and Indian War, American Revolutionary War period. So we're going to check this out. You're going to actually get to see the Preservation Trust of Lebanon County. They're the ones that preserve this and do such a phenomenal job, and this is preserved because of them and their efforts. Otherwise, something like this of such historical significance would not be here. And you actually get to see inside this home what a home would have looked like in that colonial era. And like I said, this was emblematic of what you would have seen up and down this street. These are the homes that people would have had. We visited the outside. We have not visited the inside yet, so this is just a tremendous pleasure and a privilege. This is also on the National Registry of Historic Places, and that makes it that it's preserved, so nothing can happen to it. And once again, the Historic Preservation Trust of Lebanon County, they're the ones that preserve this, and this wouldn't be here if it wasn't for their efforts. So let's go inside, everybody. All right, here we go. We're going up the stairs. As you guys know, this stuff takes me a little while, so if we get some weird camera views, I apologize. Oh, that is neat. So up here is where the kids would have stayed. And you see the fireplace, the chimney going up through. This is so neat. Just think about all the history up here. This is so neat, being able to come up here and just see this place. And there's another bed up here. Like he had said, a lot of times the kids would sleep on the floor. You had the one bed, and it's like that the parents would be downstairs, and they keep the dogs and it's like that down here. But so this would be considered a half story, if you will. So a lot of these German homes were 1.5 stories. You just think about the craftsmanship that went into making these things. It was extraordinary talent that they had to bring over from the old country. And so here's...
And these wood here and the top of the outhouse, they're made out of the old slates. And when you see all these that they're so many cracks,
yeah,
you would think that they gotta be redone. We just noticed there's more on this side,
yeah,
than over on this side.
see over
We're
here.
looking into getting them fixed now.
yeah.
But actually now, me being the caretaker,
Yeah.
I thought it really would leak pretty much in.
Yeah.
But honest to God, it don't really leak that much.
Yeah, everything was very solid
It
and good.
it really don't, as long
what
as
you-
me being here 10+ years being caretaker. But it's like these are all slate, and the one is thin, the bottom is thick.
Yeah.
And
Because they keep on like laying over each other and stuff like that.
What they do when these get wet, they expand.
Oh, nice.
And then when all these
It closes.
they close up, so that way there's not that much water that gets through when it rains or snows.
Yeah, well, that's neat. Huh.
So there ain't that much water that
Actually
comes
makes
through
through,
here.
yeah.
I never knew that until I started here
Yeah.
10 plus years.
You know, the funny thing is they probably were aware of that too back then.
Exactly.
So, like, you think about, we have all this technology and all this engineering. Their engineering back then was nuts. Like, they had to come up with solutions to everything. And this was another one of the solutions that they just...
And these here are so hard to come by because only the Amish make them, and they're
with it being
so very hard to come by. The Amish are very scared to produce things for us Americans. They don't want
the Englishers.
they don't want to do much for us because with their culture and ours, they don't like to be in pictures and stuff. So their cultures and that they're scared to be they're shy victims.
Yeah. And you have to use, in any of these places that are on the National Register of Historic Places, you have to use era-appropriate materials and stuff like that, because that's one of the regulations for it to be on that registry to get that protection. So it's a lot harder when you go to repair these places. You have to do it in the methods with the materials, which makes it more expensive. It makes it harder to find people with those craft skills to do it exactly. So that is one of those things we talked about over at Lights Fort. Jan had explained about the stuff that they want to do, but you got to basically wait for everything to fall in place. And it's a hard thing, but you understand it, but it does make it hard because, the places are like, we need to get this stuff done, but it is what it is.
You just got to do it
according to how...
and by regulations.
Yep. Very neat. Hey everybody, so I wanted to do in conclusion for this Historic Preservation Trust of Lebanon County for the Chestnut Street Log House. It was such a privilege to be able to be there and just glean so much knowledge and information from Jerry and Gary. They were phenomenal. It made it such a great experience to get to see these different aspects of the community, to learn about the house, to see the house. Really such a neat organization, no doubt. This is definitely an organization I plan on being part of and following them. They are on Facebook. I will wind out posting it. They have a garden tour that's coming up, I think in northern Lebanon area. So I'll post about that. Maybe we'll try to do that or something like that, depending on the time. But thank you to Jan. Jan Morrissey's been awesome. She is major part of the Historic Preservation Trust of Lebanon County. Also a part of Lebanon County Historical Society. Also, thank you to Jerry, who is the tour guide. Really just was so awesome with the garden, his knowledge there. I wish I had been filming that when he was talking about that. And also to all the information about the community, about the home, the life practices that they would have had of having the farm off-site outside of town, and that's where the husband and the sons would have worked. It was just so cool, and Gary, the caretaker, was awesome. So thank you to Gary. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jan. Thank you to the Historic Preservation Trust of Lebanon County for all the work that you guys do to preserve this history and to keep it alive, and to allow us to come in to these places and learn from you guys. You guys were so generous. it really was an awesome experience. So I want to say thank you to you all. Yeah, so we will be trying to make trips back to Monroe Valley Chapel at some point. Obviously, the Lindley Murray Schoolhouse, hopefully we won't be having, the whole twitching thing that was going on with that whole video. Whatever happened, it got corrupted somehow. So I'd like to go back in there and maybe film it a little differently and just show you everything in there, because it was just so neat seeing a schoolhouse from the 1850s, what it would have actually looked like. They just put so much great work into that, and really neat place. And then obviously we want to go back to as well Lights Fort at some point and take you through everything from the history of it to the ghost stories and some of the other unique things about that place, and go from there. But thank you as always. This has been a lot of fun. It's been a 5-parter. As originally it was gonna be, this is gonna be one video, and then it turned into 2, and then 3, and then 4, eventually 5. It was really neat being up in that attic, seeing just the unique things. That it's a loft, I guess is what it's called. Where the kids would have stayed. Would have been a little cooler up there, I'm sure, a little hotter in summer. Probably wasn't the most pleasant place to be, but you're the kid. But a lot of cool stuff. It was cool to see that whole thing, like when the shingles do split, but as the rain hits it, the wood expands and it actually like closes up, because you could see on the floor there that there was no water damage. So it's impressive to me that it just, and Gary had said he'd been caretaker there for over 10 years, and it was like, I haven't really seen, weirdly, he thought at first, it was like, oh, this is gonna be a problem, and then turns out not so much. But it also raises the awareness when he's talking about the shingles are only made by certain people anymore, because this is a craft that just people don't do anymore. So, and it's hard to get the people that do that craft to get them to work with them, and I'm sure it's not cheap. And that's one of the hardest parts with these buildings, especially with them being on the National Registry of Historic Places. There are certain stipulations, like you can't just slap anything up there. You've got to slap era appropriate things to make your fixes and stuff like that. So obviously way more expensive. So it's he had talked about too, when we were in the living room, like they would like to get a chest that would be symbolic of what they would have had back then, or emblematic, or whatever you want to say it, or the appropriate verbiage is there, but something that would have been era appropriate. The stove is an 1800s. They would like to get a 1700s, but there's very few of those out there, and I'm sure they're extraordinarily expensive. And even like something like a chest, if you'd get a 1700s era chest, he's saying it's at least $5,000. So, my hope is eventually with this channel, as we grow, that we're able to be a tool for them to let people know, hey, these are some of the needs they have. We'd like to be able to furnish this a little bit further. If you have items like that you'd like to donate to the Chestnut Street Log House, we can make that happen. If we can get giving going in that direction, whether it's sending a check or however they want to do it, that they can then go out and get those things. Because it really is, it comes down to people's willingness to give, volunteer, because I know that's something all these organizations really are the things they struggle with the most, of the volunteers. Tom Dunmoyer has talked about how for the first time in his tenure of watching over these places, primarily Monroe Valley Chapel and Lindley Murray Schoolhouse, he felt secure in that the building was good for the next generation. But it's still, you need that next generation to step in and start helping, volunteering, which is something I'll do, and go from there. But I want to say thank you once again, everybody, for coming along on another adventure. And as always, I want to say thank you, and we will see you all about town.